Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. So today we're going to talk about Malice. Now, this topic comes from Mick Foley, who I read an article talking where Mick Foley talked about something he feels is missing from pro wrestling today. And he didn't use the word malice. What he said, and I'll put it on the screen rather than read the article, is that sometimes the heel needs to not try to win. That the heel needs to take enjoyment in just causing pain. And that if, for instance, if he was to work with a guy like Darby Allin, it wouldn't be him trying to beat Darby Allin. It would be putting Darby Allin, basically torturing him and making the fans believe that Darby Allin is in the fight of his life. And he says, hey, guys like Abdullah the Butcher didn't go for near falls. There was no 2 counts. He didn't care if he won or lost. He was in there for blood. He was in there to hurt. And as I was reading this, my mind really got to churning on this thing because he's not wrong. Once again, he's not wrong. Part of the wrestling landscape is sort of what he referred to as the madman. And I referred to as the sadist. I believe I talked about this in my video on the badass, which will probably be in the description if I can remember to put it there. And sometimes wins and losses don't matter as much as making a statement. And I think this is where we talk about storytelling. Abdullah the Butcher pretty much lost every match I've ever seen him in. And it's either by disqualification or it was thrown out because it was a count out or something like that. The same thing with the Sheik, what I have termed Sheik Farhat, the uncle of Sabu. These guys who would throw fire, they would stab people. And there was usually only about one in the territory, which, Mick Foley says you can't have 5 matches of that kind of stuff. But if you can get one guy in your territory that doesn't care about wins and losses, but cares more about causing pain, it will stand out. And somebody who's strong enough, dangerous enough, kind of disturbed enough to really put the babyface in real peril, to get people to really believe that something very bad is about to happen or is happening. And the moment he said this, I really got to thinking about all the stuff that he did as Cactus Jack and in the early days of Mankind. And I would say to myself, he is 100% right. Mankind often won. It's just the nature of having wins and losses. But when his matches with Undertaker, he almost never won those matches. But he always put Undertaker through the grinder, always throwing himself at Undertaker, constantly hitting Undertaker with weapons, challenging him to these awkward matches like boiler room brawls and, they did burn his face at one point, but it was also Sting, where you had Mick Foley basically brutalizing Sting all that time. Vader was another one. Vader was often a guy who tried to win, but it wasn't always like him quickly going for near falls. So I understand what he's talking about. And I said to myself, wrestling is kind of missing that dangerous guy aspect. Now, clearly in the WWE's respect, we can't do too much of the Abdullah the Butcher style heel because there's no blood. So you can't do that. But their best recreation of it can come from somebody like Shayna Baszler, where you have somebody who is just vicious for vicious sake. Like what she did to Eva Marie, or what she did to Nia Jackson, stomping the arm in the stairs or whatever. The elbow stomps. That sort of viciousness is good. It's great. It makes her stand out. The fact that she loses a lot, that sucks. But it would make more sense if she were, a psycho who got you in a guillotine choke and refused to let it go. This was something that we would see from Ken Shamrock when he was in the WWF. Shamrock would often snap. They would do these snapping spots where Shamrock would get disrespected or Shamrock would get made a fool of, and he would completely lose his mind. And from there, he would lose matches because either the referee threw it out or the decision was reversed. One such when he defeated The Rock for the Intercontinental Championship once. And he put him back in the ankle lock. He wouldn't let the ankle lock go. So the referee just kind of reversed the decision. Second one is when he choked out the British Bulldog, because the British Bulldog doused dog food in his face. So he choked him almost to death. Like Shamrock was a babyface when he did this stuff, though. But it really got him over. Because Shamrock came across as an absolute nut. He didn't care whether he won or lost. Winning and losing did not matter. What mattered was he was going to punish the Bulldog for spreading dog food in his face. That kind of stuff comes with a price, and it was excellent. I hate that it kind of stopped, but that's a perfect, the Shayna Baszler and Ken Shamrock, that's one of the perfect space for where you want to get a guy these days. You would get somebody who would want to torture people. Bryan Danielson in AEW right now, I'm going to kick their fucking heads in. He's stomping people in the head. That's good. He's still going for near falls. He's still going for submissions, but he's out there basically to torture people. And he's not putting guys in the fight for their lives, though. So I think this is the closest we can get, is to have some sort of submission style wrestler that really wrenches on something, that really twists and makes things ugly, because the old days, you would just hit a guy with a chair, you would stab him with a spike or something like that. He'd bleed, and you just stab him again and again and again and again and again, and just put your fingers in the wound and rip it and all that kind of stuff. And that would be, a disqualification. You throw it out. You got to throw that out. And then the guy wouldn't care about it at all. But those days are kind of long gone. So I sat back and I said to myself, why don't we have that today? And I say, well, the closest that I think we have to it is Harlan in NXT. He's won both of the matches he's been in by referee stoppage due to him dribbling guys on the mat. He hasn't done a move and pinned anybody yet. Not saying that, it's not going to happen eventually. I'm sure that it will. But Brock Lesnar in his early days, too, was just a monster. He would often wouldn't pin anybody or do anything until he had done the damage that he wanted to do. I'll never forget the Brock Undertaker Hell in a Cell match. That's the perfect encapsulation of what Mick Foley is talking about. That match where Brock just completely destroys Undertaker in this Hell in a Cell match, and then at the end he's standing at the top of the cell covered in Undertaker's blood, like when he murdered Hulkamania. He's literally squeezing the life out of Hulk Hogan with this bear hug. As basic as this bear hug is, that Hogan is an older guy and Brock is this young, violent, mountain man who came out of nowhere, and now he's murdering Hulk Hogan and he's wiping Hulk Hogan's blood all over his chest. That kind of stuff does work. It works. And I think we don't have so much of that today because we put in so much emphasis on the sport aspect. That, as a heel, you're supposed to be trying to win. As a babyface, you're supposed to be trying to win. That's the purpose of the wrestling match, is to win the match. And I've said that before, and it's not wrong. You should be trying to win the match. And usually when people aren't trying to win the match, it's because they're trying to get their shit in. And getting your shit in means, I can't go for the pin here because I got to do another shooting star press, another plancha over the top rope. We got to do more of the flippity days. That's different from having an almost jokerish mindset where the babyface is down and out, basically crawling to the ropes, and you're taking your sweet ass time stomping them or hitting them with chairs or crushing their throat against something or doing something diabolical to them. That's a completely different psychology. And I do miss that. I'm not a big fan of Abdullah the Butcher or the Sheik. I think those kind of bloody brawls, they have their place. But, I think that we've kind of been oversaturated with that kind of stuff these days. And now the girls are doing it. They're stabbing each other with thumbtacks and, barbed wire across the forehead and everything. And look, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But for me, it's like we should save that for guys like Abyss. Abyss in TNA was another one where I felt like that was pretty cool. Abyss lost most of the most violent matches he was ever in. He lost more often than not. But when you watched Abyss, you always got a sense that he was not all there. Maybe he went for too many pinfalls too, but he had the psychology down where it was all about elevating the violence, taking it to the next level. Of course, it would go too far, and there's thumbtacks not thumbtacks, but a 2x4 with nails in it. It's like we know you're not going to use that, like a baseball bat, a piece of lumber covered in barbed wire. That's okay, but when you got that nails, nobody's going to buy that. And it takes me all the way back to the street fight between Triple H and Mick Foley, where Foley is like in there expressly to hurt Triple H. Not, winning the title is secondary. The goal is to maim Triple H. And I kind of miss those days, where that's violence in wrestling done the right way. That's violence for the right reasons. Is at some point in time, it's not about winning and losing. It's about causing pain. It's about being a sadist. It's about, I'm hurting you because I enjoy it. Or because I don't have any self-control. That would kind of be the Kamala. Kamala is a savage. He has no self-control. So he doesn't really even know what to do. Like you would see him squash guys, and then he would have to be told by his handlers how to pin them, like pin. And then he would go for another splash, boom. And sometimes the guy would be face down, and and the handler would have to tell him to roll him over. And then Kamala would roll him over and pin him. But that was after, people on the outside of the ring had to tell him and yell at him and, stop. You've done enough. Now you can win. Now go in there and pin him. And I like that about Umaga too. When Umaga, in the early days of Umaga, when he was just insane, but we're not allowed to have these sort of barefoot savage characters anymore. So you have that kind of change too. Because you look at somebody like Abdullah the Butcher or somebody like the Sheik. These were stereotypical characters that were supposed to be savages in some way. We can't do that anymore. There's people who are kind of against that sort of thing. Then you have in WWE's sense, the lack of blood. You can't do blood anymore. In AEW, they just don't know how, when is the right time to do something like that. They just haven't gotten their timing together. You can have your death match, but, having random Jericho versus Nick Gage death matches on television makes no sense. Letting the girls do it makes no sense. It just doesn't seem to work. Now they have guys where you can probably get away with having that mentality, where a guy who's just going to take enjoyment in hurting you. There's some guys on that roster that can get away with that. Wardlow's with the power bombs. He's kind of doing that right now, where he's not going for the pins immediately. He wants to just enjoy the power bomb. I like that. I said that before. I liked it. There's that hurting for hurting's sake. Now, unfortunately for Wardlow, it's going to end up turning him babyface. But which is kind of the goal, which is what they want. But what Foley is talking about is a monster heel. Somebody with some real malice to what they're doing. And sometimes it could be a little bit empty, where there's no real reason why they're so violent. They just are. They set a standard when it comes to violence in their matches, or like you would have this situation where an Abdullah the Butcher or the Sheik, no one's leaving until somebody is bleeding. We're not going anywhere. We're here for the long haul until somebody, and the match probably is not going to be that long anyway, to be quite honest, because they're really trying to go for it almost immediately. The spike, the fire, the fingers in the eyes and raking at the forehead and everything, the biting, all that stuff, we're going for it almost immediately. So it's not like we're about to be here an hour until somebody bleeds. It's like, no, we're in this joint, to really make it happen, and to get people all riled up. And it sets such a beautiful picture, especially for an underdog babyface, that yeah, we are missing that in wrestling right now. And it's truly sad. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, donate to the channel. Thank you guys for your time, and I'll talk to you guys later.